I got us record. You know what? We are Joe Biden at this point. We could not get our shit together. It took us 20 minutes to
I'm
get
pulling
everything
shit in,
working.
I'm plugging it, I'm rebooting it, I'm scratching my head,
I
scratching my
saw the
butt.
wires. I thought you were being attacked by a poisonous snake or something. I was like, "Holy shit!" I said, "I'm
I'm
gonna lose."
fumbling through my drawer trying to find the right wire to plug in. I'll take a picture of it so we can remember. I
Yeah,
think the thing is like what you said, like you got to just leave it up and running.
yeah. I never disassemble it, so I've always got it on. I've had people at my home. They're like, "What's going on here with all this shit?" And I'm like, "I know. It's my therapy. This is my therapy table right here."
It's cheaper than therapy.
It is cheaper than, well, it was an investment, but over time it amortizes. It is cheaper.
That's true. Do you remember there was the taco guy at the Troy Farmers Market and he had these shirts that said tacos are cheaper than therapy.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever happened to him? Is he still there? Plus they had a Mexican restaurant in Hudson or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they deported him and
That's
no,
it?
he's
Well, he's going
no.
anyway because Trump's deporting his ass, if when he
uh,
wins.
no, he was a cool guy,
Yeah, he
Jair
was.
or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
he was a very nice guy. And
And
his
I think
wife,
he
right?
did make it. Did he come through legal means or did he make it over the wall? He told me the story one time.
No, he was here legally, and he had his family, and I went to their restaurant. I'm pretty sure it was in Hudson a couple of times. They have good food.
I heard the rest. Yeah, I heard the restaurant was good.
Their chips were stellar.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, just a funny side note because I was going through my divorce at the time,
Oh,
and I was freshly single, and I know
uh-oh.
he was trying to. Yeah, one of his workers, Rosetta. I could say her first name. I don't know her last name, but Rosetta was trying to marry me to get the green card, and they were honest about it.
Are you kidding me?
I said, I said, I'm not sure. You know, I'm just getting out of a complicated sort of thing.
Talk about the jumping
Yeah,
from the
I
fire
had
into
only
the
known
frying
them.
pan.
Yeah,
Oh my
they were
god.
like my farmers market neighbor for maybe 3 weeks before the proposal happened.
Well, at least she got to know you, before she made the big move.
That's
So
true.
that's
Yeah.
worth something. So anyway, since our last podcast, Greg Campobasso on aliens.
Oh yeah, that was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think
Yeah.
it's interesting after that podcast because there's a lot of information that's come out
Oh,
um,
true. Yeah.
on the whole alien thing. So there's
Now,
a definitely.
Did he end up getting raptured? Like, is he still with us, or did he
He may
ascend?
be gone. He may be gone. I haven't heard from him since, but he may be raptured.
Okay.
Uh, but now we kind of know the alien thing's far more scary than what we originally thought. I don't know. Maybe Joe Biden's an alien at this point. Who the fuck knows? But anyway, just getting to that. You saw the picture of him in the church in Philadelphia. Have you seen that video?
I don't know. Did you watch the debates or no?
I did watch the debates. I got to be honest. I'm like, let's be honest. Let's make this the most honest podcast we've ever done. Not that we've ever done one that isn't, but we may have avoided certain subject matter just because of the sensitivity of it. But we have to say, can you believe like the media was like shocked? What happened to Joe Biden? I'm just like, where have you guys been? I'm just like, isn't it not crazy?
I think for a
Um,
lot of people, it must have been like the first time they realized, like, uh oh, we's in trouble.
well, they've said that his issues started about 9 years ago. So it's not like it's new information. He started his decline. Reagan was the same way in his second term. Halfway through his second term, he had early onset of Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I
And
do. I do remember that. But I would have to say, I'm trying to think back to the first Trump Biden debate. Was it this bad? I don't remember it being this bad.
no, 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 no.
He was like somewhat
He was
lucid, like he
somewhat
knew
there.
where Yeah, I think he knew where he was on the last
Mhm.
debate.
No, I think it's really well. This whole thing is so. How do you recover? We're going to get into some stuff that we're going to discuss some things that nobody else has discussed, and there's been some recent things that have occurred that we're going to discuss. about the intelligence agencies. But
I
how
think
do
we're
you,
living in the alternative reality, like we were saying.
do
Something
you
happened.
really believe
Somebody
that?
flipped the switch. I don't know. I mean,
There's a
there
wrinkle in
has
the
to be a
matrix. I mean,
yeah.
I've never seen anything like this in my life. I'm like, but here's the it reminds me of that House of Cards series with Kevin Spacey,
Oh,
where
that's a
everything
good.
was built
Yeah,
on a house of cards, and I really
yeah.
think you you can't deny. I have so many friends that are, which is fine with the whole Biden thing. They're going to vote for Joe Biden. That's fine. But the reality of the situation we're in is the surprise of people, even people that I know. I can remember asking a very good friend of mine when he first came into office, his first year, because you start watching him walk, and he had this gait, and he was a little wobbly, and then of course he fell down 2 or 300 times. But I remember seeing them fall up the stairs, and then he fell at the Air Force Academy. I think he was at the Air Force or West Point, wherever he was. And I can remember asking a good friend of mine, "Do you think he's got maybe the early set of Alzheimer's or dementia?" No,
Parkinson's,
he's always been
something like
like
that.
that. Joe Biden's always been like that. And I'm like, "What?" I mean, I remember Joe Biden. Let's go back. Let's forget about the Alzheimer's thing. Okay, let's just go back to Joe Biden plagiarism. Was it 1978 or 1980 when he was running for president, where he lied through his teeth about his education, where he was in class, and on and on and on. And the big thing with me, I'm always sitting there going, oh, they say Donald Trump lies, and then I'm like, but Joe Biden really lies. I mean, his uncle being devoured by cannibals. Then the Air Force, the military had to come out and say, no, he crashed over the South Pacific and there was no survivors, or there was one survivor. Some crazy story. But
Oh,
his
did
uncle
they
was
really
never,
say that? Or he said his uncle was
yeah,
captured
his
or
uncle
something?
had been
Yeah.
devoured by cannibals in the South Pacific. That should have been a racial thing. Why didn't we bring that up as being racist? I mean, why didn't that come out? But let's think about some things. The big thing is, which I've got a headline, which I'm going to bring headlines from now on.
Okay, yeah. Why don't you talk and do the headline, and
What
we'll
are you going
catch
to
up
do?
at some point.
What are you going to do over there?
I don't
Anyway,
know.
this is the first one. This is from CNN. Biden elevates CI director to cabinet, a symbolic nod to central role. So we're going to get into this. So Biden put the director of the CIA in his cabinet. This happened on, it was reported on July 21st, 2023. And President Joe Biden is elevating CI director Bill Burns to his cabinet, a symbolic measure that nonetheless represents a major role he has played in national security amid Russian invasion of the Ukraine. Now, we all know that's all bullshit. And I'm going to tell you why it's
Yeah,
bullshit.
that's crazy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just saw a clip today of Putin basically acknowledging that Trump has said he's going to end the war, and Putin was like, "Oh,
Well,
okay." He's
they're
got,
rushing, right? They're all rushing to try and end it before Trump gets in there, because no one's going to like his solution, or maybe, who knows what that's going to mean.
what
But
do you think the solution would be? Just cut all the aid? You think?
yeah,
Probably.
I just think they're going to have to succumb to the fact that Russia went in. They took. I mean, listen, the Ukrainian war is a whole other podcast, but they have
That's
wiped out
true.
an entire demographic of kids. Okay, I love the fact that we are willing to go in, march all these young boys, 17 to 35, onto the front lines with the Russian army. And we allow that to occur, which is a CIA war. Okay, that's what this is. It has nothing to do with you or me, the American public. That whole Ukrainian thing is a money laundering operation. Did you know that this is an interesting little tidbit of information that came out? Sarah, I think it's Sarah Adams. She was a CIA operative. We're going to talk about the CIA today because you cannot talk about the CIA and talk about this election, because they have been involved in every fucking election. over the last 3 elections, including this one. So the first one with Trump, the second one with Biden, and now this one. And we'll go through
You
why.
think there's ever been? So you're saying since the beginning of the CIA, they've
Well,
been involved in
it
every
all
election?
started with Jack Kennedy. So here we go. Let's go through this. We'll go through it very systematically, and here we go. So Jack Kennedy,
Down the rabbit hole.
down the rabbit hole. This is the truth, though, and we're missing this. This whole thing, this whole headline right here, this should have been covered. No one covered it. There's only one person that covered it in the news. I was shocked. It was Jesse Waters with the CIA and the FBI connection into this White House. But let's go. Here we go. So Jack Kennedy, of course, was against the whole war thing. He was having back channel discussions with Brezhnev. They were trying to stop a nuclear war that we came pretty close. We're pretty goddamn close to one now, if anybody wanted to really look at it. But we don't have a news organization that'll report it. But we came really close, and he pissed off the CIA. In fact, he was in office for 3 months. He walked into a cabinet meeting. He said, I don't know who's running this fucking country, but I'm pretty sure it's not us. And that was his first realization of what was going on with the US government. And then he went on, gave various speeches throughout his short career talking about the dismantling of secret societies, which what he considered secret societies were all of the intelligence agencies, including the FBI and CIA. And there is plenty of evidence. With a lot of things people don't know is that George Bush, who was a CIA director, this is so murky, so dirty, so fucking bad. But he was in charge of, well, they didn't have field offices, so I don't know what we want to refer to it as, but George Bush, who was CIA director at one point in his career, but early on during the Kennedy assassination, he was working for the CIA. But they were the ones in charge of the whole investigation and the report that came out that was all bullshit. And the bottom line is the CIA did the best they could to try and put Kennedy on ice, and they ended up killing him. Now, and no one's going to dispute that. In fact, Trump's saying he's going to release all that information.
They were really a misinformation party.
We have been a misinformation since World War II. There isn't a single fucking report, including the 911 report, that the government has submitted to the people that has been true. None of them are true. UFO, you name it, it's all bullshit. And we sound like crazy people when we say this, but here we go.
No, I mean,
so Jack Kennedy was not a CIA president, okay? Along comes Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon delves into the Kennedy assassination. They would always say they were arch enemies. I think they were actually pretty good friends. But they dive into, so Nixon gets into office. This is crazy. I just heard this the other day. He gets into office and he goes, he brings in a CIA director. I know what happened to Jack. This is on tape. You can hear it on YouTube and you can listen to it. The CIA director had no comment. And Nixon was going to go after the CIA again. So here you got Kennedy who went after the CIA. He's dead. Richard Nixon says, I'm going to go after the CIA. Guess what happened to Richard Nixon? Watergate. Seven of the people, there were nine people total involved in the break-in. 7 of them were CIA people that we don't even know who they are. And 2 of them, and Richard Nixon gets on and talks about this very, very carefully. He doesn't want to, he's already out of office by the time he talks about this and he gets asked that question. But that was a total setup to get rid of Richard Nixon. Then what they do is they get rid of Spiro Agnew, who's his vice president. And of course, they either get you on sex or IRS violation, right? Voiding paying taxes. Those are the things, right? They come after on those.
Yep.
That's when it's all bullshit. So they go after Spiro Agnew, and they come in and they say to Nixon, you have to put Gerald Ford in as your vice president, knowing he would become the president. That was what they told him he had to do. He did it. And guess who was part of the whole investigation into the Kennedy assassination? Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford was involved in that. They were all...
He covered it up. You're saying he covered it up?
Yeah, they were all involved in it. They were all involved in the cover-up of that investigation. So
why didn't Nixon sing years later? Why didn't he Nixon knew he was set up.
Oh yeah, he knew he got set up, but how do you? I mean, they killed a president. Are you gonna like create a problem? That was their whole point in
Yeah, I
killing the
guess that was
president. They wanted everybody
yeah,
to know we will fuck you up if you try and fuck with
yeah,
us. And that's
yeah.
when you knew who was running the country. Okay, so you go Kennedy, not a CIA president. Richard Nixon, not a CIA president. Jimmy Carter, not a CIA president. But that whole debacle with our, the U.S. embassy and people being held hostage, it's got CIA written all over it.
Who was running the CIA?
I don't remember who the directors were, but they're all demons for good. They're all sociopaths, every one of
They're all
them.
part of the deep state,
They're all
as
part of
everybody would
the,
say.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the CIA runs everything. Okay. We're going
The
to get into
Illuminati?
this.
Are they part of the Illuminati?
Oh, uh, I'm sure.
What's
I'm sure they're
yeah?
all Luciferian societal sociopaths. So anyway, so Richard
Blame it on
Nixon.
the Freemasons.
I don't want to bring those in. I have friends who are Freemasons, so I don't want to bring that up.
Okay. Yeah, I know, and they're nice guys. They're like the guys you'd see down at the Elks Club. They don't look like they're evil.
Yeah, they're only evil when they want to kill you, and then they become evil. So as long as
when
you
they
stay
eat
on,
your babies.
and they're all bad people. I mean, who cares? So now you've got Jimmy Carter, not a CIA guy, and then you get who comes in? Reagan comes in, not a CIA guy, and who's his vice president? George Walker Bush. There you go, buddy. That's the way to get through this podcast. So Ronald Reagan.
Oh yeah,
into
enter the
office.
Bushes, and we're in a whole new era, right?
Well,
Let's
talk about Ronald Reagan first, right? Ronald Reagan.
Okay. Yeah.
Ronald Reagan is assassinated. There's an assassination attempt on him by David Hinckley Jr. There you go. There he is. David Hinckley Jr.
That's my favorite mug, my Reagan mug.
Well,
like, if anybody goes near it, I'm like, don't touch my Reagan mug.
Oh God. Guess who knew the Hinkleys, the mother and father? They were oil people. The father was a big oil guy.
You're
George
kidding
Bush
me. They
knew
were
him.
tied into they were family friends.
Tied in with the Hinkley's, and Hinckley's the one that shot Ronald Reagan. It's well
Yeah,
known.
wow.
Go look it up. They were both oil guys. They knew one another. George went on to run the CIA and got involved in politics. And I'm trying to think if George Bush was ever a senator or congressman. I just think he was the director of the CIA and then got involved as the vice president with. And that's an interesting thing to try and figure out a story. Why did Reagan pick Bush? Why? I don't know the answer to that one. But so now we're down to, so we get out of the Reagan era, 2 elections, and who comes along? Was it Bill Clinton, right? Bill Clinton was a CIA operative. He was while he was in college. I mean, that's pretty well documented.
He was a plant, you're saying?
Yeah, he definitely was a plant. So, was it Bill Clinton? I'm just trying to think of so Bill Clinton, CIA, all the Bushes, CIA. You get to Barack Obama, totally CIA. And then you get to the one and only, we just skip over, go right to Donald Trump, not CIA. Not even close, not even a resemblance.
You're saying he's the first, you're saying he's the first president not to be?
No, we just went through Kennedy, Reagan, Kennedy, Nixon, Reagan, Carter.
Oh, right. Okay.
Not CIA presidents.
Okay.
So now comes along. Let's just go right to the Biden family. Talk about Irish gangsters, these motherfuckers. I mean, and Barack Obama is dirty, man. He's a dirty politician through and through. All the things. And the Clintons. I mean, you want to talk about the Illuminati? 100%, and the whole Epstein thing, all wrapped up in a bow. That whole thing
with the Clintons, yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
And they didn't even really try to hide it back in the 90s, the Clintons.
They're not trying to hide anything. In fact, if you really look at this whole Biden thing, there's 4 million people that voted for him in these elections, in these primaries, to be their nomination. And the wonderful, we're here to protect democracy. We don't want democracy to go anywhere. They're going to decide who the fucking president's going to be. Maybe. I don't see. Here's the whole thing. When Biden put Bill Burns in to his cabinet just recently, I think that was an insurance policy, right? He's saying, listen, I'm on your side. You guys fix the election, make sure I win, and you'll have a place right here. You can put your hand right on me. You can tell me what to do. Joe Biden's been doing shit that he's been against most of his political career, including just the 30 million migrants that have come across the border. And here we are. I mean, we're in a situation. So what does that mean? So here's some other headlines, right? Documents confirm CIA involvement in domestic deception campaign against the Trump administration. Second one, CIA blocked IRS DOJ investigators from interviewing Hunter Biden. That was a whistleblower, Kevin Morris, who came forward and said that the CIA and FBI was protecting Hunter Biden. They have to protect Hunter Biden.
I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. Hunter Biden was going to blow the lid off the entire operation. So what we really have here is a very interesting dynamic. We have Biden, who is fighting for his life, for his family, for his brother Jim, for Hunter. Who knows what other Bidens are involved?
I think they're going to dress Hunter up like Biden.
They may be already doing that.
Yeah, they'll remove
you seen
Biden.
All the contortions in his face and everything. It's been pretty wild. So then the next headline, CIA blocked IRS from investigation. There's a full report. Here it is right here. You can go read it. New York Times, as a matter of fact. Oh, there we go. There we are. New York Times report on the whole thing with Hunter, the gun, everything. They were forced to have to go prosecute him because it was getting to a point where they had to run cover.
But they only got him on the gun charge. What was
stupid gun charge?
What were the charges? I mean, I know they had the laptop, and they said there was collusion, right,
on the laptop. That laptop had so much shit in it.
But somehow they just got him on the gun
girls
charge.
Having sex with underage girls. He's having sex with his brother's daughter. There's pictures of it. I've seen the pictures. I've seen the pictures of the laptop. I mean, it is brutal. The shit that's on that laptop. If you had it on your laptop, you can go to jail for it because it's considered child pornography.
You think people died to protect the laptop?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, that's a Julian Assange discussion. You know,
what's going on now? Now suddenly Hunter is like partially
he's in every meeting.
Advisor.
He's in every meeting in the White House right now.
Yeah, is that not weird that suddenly he's like active when he was just kind of?
Well, I mean, these guys they're lifelong politicians. They've been so corrupted. Of course, they were. Listen, what are you drinking beers, smoking weed while we're?
No, it's seltzer. It's seltzer and herbal cigarettes.
And shit cracking and
it's just a big party. Big party over here.
Oh my God. And then the other thing that I'm just not going to get into, but it's how contractors colluded with the Biden campaign to mislead American voters. There's a full-fledged report. U.S. House of Representatives did this full report, which is going nowhere. No one's covered it. It's right online. You can get it. This isn't some fucking conspiracy thing by a bunch of crazy people with tinfoil hats on. This is this thing will blow you away when you read this. I mean,
what's your summary?
Well, the synopsis is we're dealing. I don't think this is any shock to anybody. We're dealing with people who are bought and paid for. You know, they allowed. Just think of how fucking awesome it is if you're a CIA guy and you're controlling the world and you own the president. Think about that. They can do any fucking thing they want. They can do whatever they want, and they are doing whatever they want. We're watching democracy. The Democrats are talking about Donald Trump will destroy democracy. We're for democracy. And in the meantime, let's talk about the fact that every single primary they've had, they've decided who's going to run for president. Bernie Sanders was ahead in every single primary, and they just blew him off, and he ate shit. He's like their bitch. Bernie Sanders is their bitch.
He came out like pro Biden too, didn't he? Recently,
he's got to. He's got to. He's got to come out.
What is Pelosi? Has Pelosi said anything or not yet?
She was on today. She's about right on the cusp of senility as much as
Well,
Biden.
I think once she turns
She's not though.
against Biden, maybe. You don't think so?
No. So I think the dynamic that you're dealing with right at the moment is, will Joe Biden go away? And I just read, let me just see.
He ain't going away.
He's not going
Trump
anywhere.
doesn't. Yeah, Trump doesn't think he's going away.
No, he's not. And
Or do you think it's because Kamala's? Is it Kamala or Kamala? Kamala, right?
Kamala, yeah, Kamala Harris.
Kamala. So I
Well,
can't imagine if she. Do you
well,
think they? You think?
she's pretty clueless. I don't think she knows, like, she has to come and play with the intelligence agencies. And see, I think there's a lot of dynamics going here. I think that they've built an entire, for the last 30 years, they've built everything on lies, including the 911 report. That report is complete bullshit. And Trump said he's going to release that report. He's going to release all the Kennedy information. We'll see. Now, the problem with that is, I mean, Trump had some influence in that too, because Mike Pompeo, who tried to kill Julian Assange, who the European courts were trying to get him over there on 2 occasions, I think. Yahoo News did a report on it. I don't feel like getting into that. It's like 30 pages long. But if you go to Yahoo News and you type in the Julian Assange report, that they did about 4 years ago, it's pretty extensive. And Mike Pompeo did 2 things while and don't forget, he ran the CIA as well. Mike Pompeo did a couple of things. He wouldn't allow Trump to release the Kennedy information, which was supposed to be released by law. That's something they've been doing.
Why?
Why
That's
do
a
you
Freedom
think?
of Information Act.
Yeah.
How long do they? Is there like a statute limit? Like when do they
it was
need to
supposed to be
release it?
released 15 years ago.
So if they deem it,
Well,
if they
everything's
deem it
classified
private
in the
because
government.
of classified because of national security, how is
Yeah,
that
but I
worked
mean,
out when
they classify everything. They overclassify everything just so they're in the habit of doing that. If you went to the White House, ordered a tuna sandwich, that'd be classified. I'm not even kidding.
but
They classify every single thing.
but they're not going to come out and implicitly say that the CIA is responsible for Kennedy's death. Like people have already
Well,
made up
they
their
have.
mind.
I mean, there's been whistleblowers that have come out. I've seen those documents.
Well, I know, like RFK is convinced, right?
Well, if anybody's going to know, he'd probably be. I mean, there's a great indicator. He also was pretty aware of the MK Ultra program, and that Lee Harvey Oswald was an MK Ultra victim. Sirhan Sirhan.
Oh, right.
The whole thing about the Bobby Kennedy thing, if you get into that, Bobby Kennedy was shot in the front, not in the back. Sirhan Sirhan got 4 or 5 shots off. If you listen to Bobby Kennedy, I don't know it exactly. The only shot that he got off that he was able to connect with Bobby Kennedy, Sirhan, when he shot, was a bullet went through his lip, like his shoulder pad. Everything else that they got was in the walls, in a couple of wood frames.
So you're saying he only shot him once?
Yeah, he didn't get him. He got his shoulder pad. I don't think he can die from getting shot in a shoulder pad. What they said, there was a security guard that was a CIA contractor that once that commotion went off, he turned around and shot him in the head. And whatever, I don't know, they shot him 3 times, I believe. But it was not Sirhan. But the point is that all this stuff is coming unraveled. And they are, when you build an entire government on lies, eventually the chickens come home to roost, to use a metaphor. And I think what we've got at the moment, there are so many things that can come undone. I've actually, in the last 2 years, I'm not sure who the bad guy is anymore. I have a friend of mine, we talk politics all the time. We're like, who are the bad guys? We're the bad guys. I mean, we're pretty goddamn awful when you think about it. So let's talk about something.
You mean us as in, are you saying the US or
us, our government? I think
we're
pretty bad, actually. I don't know that anything's for justice and freedom, and we're fighting for all this bullshit. It's all special interest. It's all about power. It's all about money. The Ukraine,
it's corporate interest, right? It's just it's a business, and it's
let's keep the machine, right? We got to keep,
and we're responsible to the shareholder. The only job of the responsibility of the business is responsible to the shareholders, right? So it's
Right. And the arms
everything else. Yeah.
manufacturers, right? We keep the arms manufacturers rolling. And I don't know if I told you, did I may have mentioned this, that Sarah Adams, who was a contractor for the CIA. I don't know if I finished my thought on that. I was listening to her the other day, and she was talking about how we send $87 million a week to the Taliban in Afghanistan in cash, in a plane, on pallets.
Holy shit.
Um, we do that a week. And then the vast majority
Crazy.
of that goes to Taliban martyrs that fought in the war against us. So we're taking care of veterans overseas that were our enemy, and we're giving them $87 million a week. Just round it off. That's $360 million a month, and it's $3 billion a year, over 3 billion that
Yeah, that's
we're
crazy.
isn't that fucking nuts? So
Yeah,
Sarah
it's not right.
Adams, the other thing that she came up with was that a high percentage of the like grenades, guns, things like that, um, that we're sending into the Ukraine. The Ukraine's wrapping that up, and there's a arms bazaar in Libya where you can go buy
Oh
anything.
no. Oh Jesus.
And they're over the Ukraine is shipping that shit into Libya, and it's being sold to all of our enemies for the most part. And that's how they're turning it into cash. And who knows where that cash is going? There's absolutely no accounting of what's going on in the Ukraine. So the point is that you got Trump who comes along and throws a fucking monkey wrench. I'm so sick of it. I really am. I'm sick of all the lies, all the bullshit, just the whole Joe Biden thing. How do you come back from? Okay, how do you come back from? Oh, there's been an Alzheimer's doctor in there 9 times in the last year or two. How do you come back and say, "Oh no, he was fine"? We've been being
Oh yeah, I watched the press conference. Were you watching that? And she wouldn't really answer, the press secretary. She was
no.
kind of dancing around. She's like, "Well, they were doctors." And then he said something. Biden said something like, "Well, I get a neurological exam every day or whatever."
Then you find out his doctor's on the take. He's just as bad as the Bidens. I don't know if you saw the White House doctor who now is in the Senate. He was saying how that doctor's got such a horrid reputation. But what would you expect from the Bidens? I mean, they really are gangster. They really did turn our justice system into punishment for their political rivals. There's just no question about it.
But the thing that doesn't make sense is what's the best case scenario? So say, the Bidens, like there's no way Joe can make it another 4 years, right? And he's literally deteriorating in front of the nation, in front of the world. And what's the best case play out for them? Like Joe Biden is going, he's in the race, he's going to do this, and Joe is, but do they secretly know? Like, there's no way. Like,
There's an easy
what are
way
they
to
going?
answer that. There's an easy way. Who has been held responsible for all the bad shit that our government's done in the last 30 years? Nobody. They've gotten away whatever the fuck they wanted right in front of
Yeah.
us. Now, there's a lot of people that are asleep at the wheel. I consider the Democratic Party the Catholic Church of the 1970s. In that people just don't believe there are, these politicians are infallible. I don't trust any of them. I don't trust the Democrats or the Republicans. We shouldn't.
Oh well, same. Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
we should be asking lots of
Yeah.
questions. We
What's
should be.
going on? Not to get off topic, but RFK. Did you hear something about him dropping out because of accusations of sexual impropriety or something?
Really.
Did you? I don't know. I mean, yes, I believe
First of
it,
all,
but
he's
like,
a
and
Kennedy, so you gotta, they got libidos like rabbits, so that'd be the first thing. But all of a sudden, 30 years later, a
yeah,
babysitter dawns on her. She's been violated, and she needs to come. I don't believe that Andrew Cuomo had all those sexual. If he was trying to bang every chick in the governor's mansion down there, right here, right around the corner, um, what would he have time to get anything done? I think he was set up totally. I don't know why.
Andrew.
Oh yeah. Oh
He's
yeah.
kind of the wayward brother. You
Yeah.
remember when the New York Post? was convinced he had a nipple ring, and they
Oh
took a
my
picture
God.
of him like with his shirt off or something, some unflattering. Like if we can't get him with fact, we'll just gross people out,
Yeah, we're just
and
gonna
everybody
make
will be
him
like,
a
"Oh,
degenerate, right? He's got a nipple ring, and oh God, I remember he had the pictures of him with his shirt on and everything.
yeah,
Yeah, I just don't believe any. I don't know that I believe any. I've really tried to look at it as object. Obviously, I have my belief system in who I think would be the best person to run the country. I think someone who didn't have us in wars, had our entire economy under control, things were stable, and then of course this mysterious disease. And believe me, we're get ready for that. That's just around the corner.
I was
I've
just
heard now.
mentioning to somebody they really haven't dumped a lot into the marketing budget though for the vaccine. It's like in the previous years they were really pushing it on you. You get text and emails and commercials,
Why do you
and I
think?
think you have to pay for it now though, right? Is that
Yeah, you
like if
do.
you do?
Yeah,
It's just funny. How
yeah.
much money did how much money did
Billions.
Moderna make? Yeah, it's
Billions,
like,
and they never had a
yeah.
drug in the marketplace. Just so,
Oh really? That was
yeah.
the what was the there was one down the road in Troy. They were like right around the corner from us. Uh, I don't think it was
Are
Moderna.
you
It was one
talking
of the
about the
other.
one in Rensselaer County, the
Yeah, because I had
Trigen
some.
or whatever? My brother
Yeah,
works there. My brother works there.
he
Um,
does.
yeah, he works on
Okay.
their production line, manufacturing all the
Yeah.
drugs. That's a whole other podcast we're gonna have, but
Yeah.
just on the drug industry. Oh my God. I
See, this is what
recently
happens when we catch up after not casting for a while, and we have like it's like not talking to your grandma for 6 months, and then you got to catch up.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. But I think what you're seeing here is a real. Uh, they're completely afraid of putting Trump in there because is he going to go after him? He should go after them. I mean, we've been violated as a society. We should go after these fuckers.
I think just get the country stabilized first, and then
Yeah, yeah,
pass on
no
that.
question about it. But
Yeah.
people could say what they want, but it was a much better world during the Trump administration. Even with COVID, it was a much better world. I just felt a lot safer about everything than I do now.
All I
And
can say is my best years were actually Clinton years. Like if
oh
you were to
no,
ask
those
me
were good. Those
when
were
I
good.
was happiest and when I had the most money in my pocket for me and my family, it was Clinton.
I think you're right about that. And
But
he had
maybe that was just the time.
no. Well, don't forget he came during the technology boom. He was kind of there at the
That's
right
true.
time. I wouldn't say Bill
Yeah.
Clinton was a terrible president. I don't think he was a terrible president. He had
He had
the
time for his
scruples
love
of an
life
alley
and
cat.
to
What's that?
yeah, I said he had time for his love life and running the world.
Well, I mean, Hillary Clinton, I won't get into this. This is something
I
else.
remember you had all sorts of inside scoops on her, right?
Yeah,
Did you hang in her circles or something?
she would, well, when I was lobbying for the IAAA, which is the recording industry trade organization for music, the woman that ran that, Hillary Rosen, knew her rather well. And so when I had interface with that trade organization, I was out to dinner a lot. Um, I learned a lot about that whole thing. Yeah.
Now, where's
So
she been? You think she's just it's so embarrassing? She's too
Hillary
old, do you
Clinton,
think? Yeah, don't you think then when you think she would just step up with the superhero cape on and be like, "Hey guys,
we were supposed to have a
hello."
yeah, we're supposed to have a democratic process. So if Joe Biden can't do it, he owns $300 million in campaign treasury. That's
That's what I was
his.
listening to some podcast about that, and the only way it could be transferable is if Kamala steps in there, right? To
That's right.
for the money
She's
that
the only
Biden
one.
raised. Yeah.
All this bullshit. And who knew George Clooney? I mean, that's the thing I'm most shocked at is George Clooney has that much juice. I guess he's one of their biggest
Wait,
fundraisers.
repeat about George Clooney.
George
What
Clooney
was
is one
that?
of their biggest fundraisers. If you pull up, I
Oh,
did
okay.
today. George Clooney. I love Joe Biden, but we need a new nominee.
Okay.
Obama bro confirms claims in Clooney's damaging op-ed. So Clooney did an op-ed in. It had to be the
Oh,
Washington
cool.
Post, I'm
I'll
assuming.
have to check that out. Yeah.
Biden
So
campaign.
has Obama? Oh, go ahead.
Biden campaign to brief senators as George Clooney implores him to step aside. I mean, Ari Emanuel Aspen assault on Joe Biden in the Dems. I mean, it is fucking crazy. Says Joe Biden has to go. Dems wake up. Stop giving money to top donors. Insists George Clooney against the White House. George Clooney has delivered. You know the whole thing. Let's talk about that for a minute. The whole thing with George Clooney and his wife going after Bibi Netanyahu. Do you remember that? She put a war
Yeah,
down on him.
yeah,
It kind of makes sense. And it really, really, if you think about it, it shows you the donor class controls the White House too. There are so many
yeah, true.
masters to these
Yeah.
people. Um, and the other thing, to go back on the Ukraine war for a minute, which I found just so insulting. I found it very insulting that we were, if you remember, probably 3 months ago, there were 4 or 5 peace workers that got killed.
Yeah,
Do you remember that? And
I do. Yeah.
yeah, and we came out, and, you had Blinken and Biden and the whole crew saying, this was a violation and they shouldn't do this and blah, blah, blah. And there's kids dying and all this bullshit. But in the meantime, we killed 500,000 Iraqi kids with nobody told us to stop. Nobody said, oh, you're violating all these kids. We just fucking did our job and just killed a million.
But they did a
Oh,
good job of scrubbing that from the press too, didn't they? Like, where
oh
were those
God.
photos?
And then what
Can you
about,
imagine? Yeah.
yeah, when we get into the Supreme Court, there's just a couple of things we'll talk about on the Supreme Court, but that's another fascinating that everybody's up in arms over the Supreme Court's decision on immunity. And that's for every fucking president that's ever been in the White House. If they didn't have that, if they came back with a different ruling where you could go after presidents, you know how many of our presidents would be being sued, possibly going
Okay.
to jail?
And what's going on with the whole impeach Joe thing? Suddenly, now that he's crumbling, they're like, don't worry about it.
Well, how
We'll get
could you
back to it.
prosecute him? It comes down to
He's
to
not
uh,
even a competent.
yeah, that attorney Herb who was like, we can't prosecute him for. They would have gone after him
Really?
on the classified documents, and he
Yeah.
said because he was, a feeble old man with a bad memory or whatever. However, I'm paraphrasing, but that's kind of interesting as well. I don't know.
That
I
it
just
just went away, or maybe it didn't go away. Maybe they're just waiting for him to.
well, they
My
just
theory is that they're gonna Joe's gonna keep going. I'm in it. I'm in it. I'm in it. And then right in November, he's gonna fucking tank, and they'll slide Kamala in there without the democratic process. So she doesn't like it. Just slides in there because it just makes sense. Joe's gone. They have to. All the funding's still there, and they just plop her in instead of him going, "I'm out now," and then the party has to hold a mock election to for a new
that would be the proper process, though, if we were
right,
a
but they're not gonna. You think
democracy.
they're really gonna do that?
No, I think that Joe Biden put the CIA director into his cabinet to ensure the CIA that we'll just keep motoring along, keeping your Ukrainian war going, keeping the Israeli thing motoring along. There's 2 or 3 other conflicts we're involved in Africa. We'll keep that going. It is dirty, dirty, dirty shit that we're
What are
dealing.
we supposed to be getting out of Ukraine? Well, the spread of democracy?
You
Like
and
what
I,
is?
no, you and I are going to
Why
get
are we
nothing.
invested in that? Yeah, why
You,
are we
you,
investing in that?
you and I are going to get nothing. That was such a provoked war on behalf. Listen, I'm not for Vladimir Putin. I think he's as bad as any one of our presidents and more, probably 30% more. But does that make it right? Well, you're worse than I am. Oh, you're all fucking bad. You can't really use that as a benchmark because our presidents. I mean, just let's talk about the Supreme Court issue for a minute and what they did with the immunity charge. So that immunity charge has, they're all saying it's made Donald Trump a king. First of all, he's not president yet. And there's a good chance he won't be. I'm really going to be surprised if he wins the election just because of the.
Get the what do you who do you think it is? Kamala?
Oh, I think the Democrats. Don't forget, we go back to the CIA. I've got right here.
I
I,
think Trump's got
I
this by a
did the
landslide.
research here. Well, I mean, their whole thing is to overwhelm the voting system, right? But this here is 100 elections that the CIA was involved in trying to overturn. Successful in a lot of them, no
Oh
success.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
But I
that
mean,
list could go
that's
on
what
and
they
on.
know. They know how to do it.
Right, right.
Every time the voting integrity thing comes up, I always laugh because again, I go back to the Catholic Church because you probably weren't as exposed to this as I was, but
I'm a Jew. Oh yeah, I wasn't in
yeah,
that, but
but
I
no
was.
one
Yeah.
believed that a priest would do anything wrong. Uh,
Oh, I knew better. But yeah, you're
a
right.
friend of
They
mine
did
was
that.
molested for years by one or two priests. And when he told his parents about it, they were like, they thought he was making this up in his
Right. The
imagination.
own family doesn't even believe you. That's
No, and they believed
yeah.
these scumbags over their kid. So that tells you psychologically where we are today. Especially with the Trump derangement syndrome and the way people react. I don't react that way to anybody. I don't hate anybody that much. I'm not. First of all, none of these people would piss on you if you were on fire. And I just think that we're really in a bizarre, very bizarre times. And so when you think about that Supreme Court with the immunity, that was clarification for the presidency as a whole. Didn't have anything to do. Trump wanted verification of it, but it was really to protect our presidents for what they do in office so they wouldn't be afraid to do things, which I have mixed feelings about that if we had honorable men in the White House running it. But just to go back to the Afghani debacle, pulling out of Afghanistan, after that happened at the gate, 13 of our soldiers were dead. Numerous, they don't even talk about the ones that were maimed, missing arms and legs, that whole awful thing that went on. But what ends up happening is 2 or 3 days later to distract. This is the whole thing. It's all a distraction game with distracting the public. And unfortunately, the public goes for it. They're like literally like sheep. But what ends up happening, Jude, are you okay? You disappeared like you killed
Yeah,
me.
I have a. I'm sorry. There's a buzzing. I'm trying to. I have a. Hopefully your audio is not picking it up. I have some wires are
I can't hear
buzzing. I'm
anything.
trying to.
I hear no
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I'm.
interference.
So what I'm doing is like moving cords away from the mic because
I
it's a.
saw you earlier. Look, you had a big anaconda wrapped around you while you were trying to get everything working. I was like, what?
Yeah, I was trying to because the
That's pretty
sound.
funny.
Yeah, okay. We're
But
probably
anyway,
being tapped by the CIA.
so this military withdrawal is occurring in Afghanistan, and 3 days after the explosion with the Muslim bomber or whatever, terrorist bomber. I don't want to be politically incorrect. But anyway, after that happens,
So, what are you going to start
what
caring now?
happens? What happens? What happens? We kill 10 people in a truck headed to the
Oh
wall because
yeah,
we were told, and it was 7 little kids. So we've talked about this before, you and I.
yeah, yeah.
7 little
So,
kids, mom, dad, and an uncle are fucking killed by a drone by us. So if you didn't have that immunity thing, Joe Biden would be in trouble over that. If we didn't have the immunity thing, he'd be in trouble. All the women that have been raped. If you type in illegal immigrants and rape, it is overwhelming what comes up because it's all local news and the national news doesn't want to report it. So if you look at the local news, especially here, we're in Albany.
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't watched the local news in a while.
So anyway, and all the women that have been raped and killed, Joe Biden would be held liable. He's not holding up. There's laws for immigrants, whether they want to admit it or not. We have laws about the whole immigration thing, and they're saying 30 million people have walked through our border, and that's crazy. But
Wow.
yeah, and then you go back to Barack Obama, who killed 1 or 2 American citizens in Yemen with a drone strike, and their son, and they were American citizens, and they should have had due process, and on and on and on, and everybody was okay with that. But that's another thing that he could be held responsible for. Then you go back to the Bush administration. Let's talk about um, weapons of mass destruction and that
Oh
whole
my
fucking
God. Yeah.
bullshit, which destroyed Colin Powell's career as
Yeah,
a
that's true.
military leader, right?
Wow.
All those
Yeah.
things could get any one of our, and there's far more. I mean, we could go down the rabbit hole. The whole Vietnam War incident was all bullshit. with Lyndon Johnson, and that was was it Lyndon Johnson? I don't remember who was in that, but what started
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I
the
remember that.
Vietnamese War was fake. It was they made it up. That was a CIA debacle that they did on purpose, just like the whole thing with Jack Kennedy and the Bay Pigs. They did that on purpose to him. That's when he knew he was kind of fucked. He knew that he had they tried to kill him two other times, one in Tampa and one in Chicago. They don't ever talk about that, but there was two other
Really?
assassination attempts on JFK. And then one day they're like, "Hey, I got a good idea. Let's get you in the limo, and to make you closer to the people, let's do the convertible, okay?
Oh my
And
God.
let's
Yeah.
go for a ride, and you can wave to the people, and they'll see you and your beautiful wife, and then hopefully we'll spread your brains all over the back of the car at some point." But
Yeah.
that was the whole thing with that. And it's really you really I gotta be honest. I have never been so disenfranchised with our government as I am today. I wouldn't let one of my kids or my
And you don't
grandchildren.
think it's our age. You think it's just really things are nuts. That's what
No,
I
when you're
think.
sitting there with your 80-year-old mother and she's saying, "I've never seen anything like this in my life," and you're going,
Okay.
"You know
Yeah.
what? I've never seen anything like this in my
Yeah.
life."
Yeah. It is nuts.
Yeah, and you got
It
people who
makes you
justify
question.
this.
Makes
You
you
got
question the very fabric of our reality.
Yeah, no, it's pretty awful. It's pretty awful. And we're willing to sit there. We have no moral high ground to sit there and talk about what we should be doing as a country and point to Israel and say, "Oh no, we don't want you to defend yourself." What bullshit is that? I mean, and who knows what's going on over there? Who knows what's going
Yeah.
on in Israel? All these governments are just running shotgun over everybody and everything is really, but our United States of America right now, there is a battle like I've never seen before. We're at war internally. We're almost at a revolutionary standstill where they are willing to do it's so fucked up. It's just, okay, here's an immunity thing that we got clarification on, and they're ready to dismantle the Supreme Court over it. I'm like, what? I mean, it
Yeah. That
benefits
is
all the
crazy.
presidents, and I'm not happy about a lot of the presidents, including Republican presidents. But here we are. I mean, that's what the Supreme Court laid down. And you live with it, and that's a monkey wrench in their whole the warfare that they've created with all these departments, whether it's the IRS, the Department of Justice. That's why they're upset, because it destroyed their path to destroy the Republican candidate that they don't want to be in power. Why don't they want him in power? Because he's going to roll out the Epstein thing. Ron DeSantis, how about that? Ron DeSantis released all the documents from that trial that took place in Florida. We haven't heard a word about it.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything.
We haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
Even nobody's reporting it. Maybe Newsmax. They may be the last. Fox is bad. They
Bought and
regurgitate.
sold. Yeah.
Yeah, they regurgitate everything on the Ukrainian war. They regurgitated everything on COVID. Nobody did any investigations into what was real, what wasn't real. They just ate everything that the government told them to eat, and that was that. I mean, it's really quite disgusting. I don't know. I'm just really, and the
Let's not get you worked up. I don't want to get your blood pressure going.
oh God, we don't want to talk about that today.
Like
Um,
screaming, and remember how Alex Jones would just turn beet red and
I'm
look like
surprised
he was going to keel
I'm
over?
surprised he's alive, Alex Jones. But you want to know
No.
something? Alex Jones has been more right than the news media. I don't even listen to the news media anymore. Do
If
you?
they had a truth meter, you think he would attack the?
Oh, I
Imagine
think
if there was, like, how are we gonna, who's gonna be the arbiter of what's
AI,
true?
AI, AI
And
can.
that's fucking scary because it's whoever programs the AI.
Yeah, but at some point, AI becomes a little more independent. If they would allow an open source AI to prevail,
Yeah.
then we get reality, because it can source so much information. When I was doing research on the CIA for this podcast, I used AI, and I was blown away by what it came up with. I mean,
You
you
gonna
got to be
replace me with AI?
no. How would we do that? I mean, that's impossible. You can't do that. But yeah, it's really quite incredible. So let's go to Julian Assange. I was blown away that they let him out. Weren't you?
Yeah, I mean that was a shocker. I'm wondering, there's got to be something behind it.
Well,
Don't
how
you
about the
think?
Wall Street Journal reporter in Russia and how awful? Oh my God, it's a travesty. It's awful. I can't believe they're holding this guy. And in the meantime, we've had Julian Assange for 12 or 13 years over in, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, what are you
Right.
talking about? You guys are just as bad, Democrats and Republicans. The Trump administration had Mike Pompeo, that fucking sociopath, and he was the one who tried to kill Assange, and then the European Federation wanted to bring him over there to ask him questions, even in a trial, and he was like, "Fuck you, I'm not coming over there." And in the meantime, they let him out. So the big question is, why'd they let him out? I don't know.
Yeah. Some
He
right.
he had to
Something.
agree to an espionage charge and a few other things, and then he got time served, so he didn't have to serve additional time. That was part of the
Unless he's
deal
like
there.
a shill, like for information distribution. You think?
Well, I don't know. I saw him. WikiLeaks posted something on Instagram, which I'd never seen before, and it sounds like he's getting right back into the whole thing. He
Hmm.
has some damaging information that he released, and a lot of that was on the Clintons, and he was not a fan of the Clintons.
Was he always kind of out and proud, or did was he outed as being the source? Like, why didn't he try to be anonymous? Like, how did that all? I don't
Well,
remember the
no, I mean,
history.
WikiLeaks was his publication, so he was a journalist. He was given information by the insiders. So the CIA documents were released by that, I can't think of the person's name at this point, but the transgender, who was a male military person
Hmm.
who then became a transgender and was in jail for 6 months. Obama released him, her, whatever the pronoun is you want to use, released her, and she got out of prison in the meantime. Julian Assange, just like,
This is the Bush administration, or was this Obama?
it was everything. I think it was primarily during the Obama administration because it affected when they
Okay.
released the whole Pizzagate thing, which was everybody said was a lie.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, so they're and if you read those emails, they make no sense unless you know what they're talking about because 'cause they're talking about hot dogs and pizza and
And the
the
Pizzagate kind of came out before the whole Epstein
kid.
bombshell,
Yeah.
but then it was kind of tied together, though, right? Like, do we think that they're probably
No, I
related or
think that
no?
I think they when you just okay, if you start looking at that whole thing, when you start
Yeah.
looking at Julian Assange, just put him aside for a minute because he kind of broke. I think Julian Assange was when we really started to realize that our government, because if you remember the big thing that got the government pissed off, and I think this may have been the Bush administration, it happened during the Bush administration, was that video of those Apache helicopters or Black Hawk helicopters. Do you remember that? And there were all those people were down in the
Remind me.
street.
Yeah.
They weren't doing anything. They were just hanging out in the street in Iraq, but there happened to be
Oh,
5,
they just.
Associated
Yeah.
Press reporters that were with them, and they ended up killing them all.
Oh
And
wow.
Julian, when he got his hands on those CIA documents, that's when they realized that we did a lot of bad shit in Iraq, that being one. They just shot at them. I mean, they didn't know whether they were insurgents, whether they were terrorists. They just were smoking cigarettes and drinking tea. And there were some API reporters. I kind of doubt that the API reporters, the Associated Press, was hanging out with, a bunch of terrorists. I really find that hard to believe.
Well,
But
this
that
is like knowledge that other countries have when they hate the U.S. and nobody inside the U.S. is thinking about why other countries look at them like this. But then they know, that the crazy
who would
military or whatever just took these people out without any discretion. I
well,
mean,
another thing that's really bothersome to me, we may not feel for another 5 years, is our currency with Brexit. That we have used our currency, which we should not have done. The Saudis have pulled out of that agreement with the petrodollar. We haven't felt that yet. We're gonna feel that. Of all because
yeah.
that's the only thing that held our currency together. So now we put all these we should not use our money That should be like a neutral thing. No matter what happens, we don't use our money to punish countries. Because what's happened now, no one trusts us, so they wanna get off the dollar. Countries that we just have randomly put sanctions on people, and we do that through our banking system and US money, dollars. And I think we're in a real bind now because the amount of even or is it South Africa has joined Brexit. They're like, fuck those you can't trust them. We are the most untrusted
Yeah.
country in the world right now.
Do you
People
think
trust
so?
Vladimir Putin
Yeah.
more than they trust us. 100%.
Yeah, that is
100%.
well. That's pretty. That's amazing if that's
Yeah,
true. But
and
you're probably not wrong.
no, listen, we are. I don't even know what we are. But when you go back to Joe Biden now, but anyway, so there's a lot of fucked up shit going on. I don't even know what we do. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know.
So you hedging bets then, or are we placing our bets, or how's it going to pan
Why?
out?
What do you think's gonna? Why don't you? What do you think's
I
gonna happen?
told you. I think they're gonna. I think Joe's gonna hang in there and say, "I'm gonna," I'm in this for the long haul.
Well,
And
he's saying
then,
that today. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think anybody. Which is so great. All of a sudden, Joe Biden yesterday became an outsider because he was saying the elites are trying to get rid of me. Did you hear that
no,
whole thing?
no, he's trying the same game as Trump,
That's
basically, right?
Trump. The only problem is
Yeah,
Trump's for real and Joe's, his uncle got eaten by
the
cannibals. I
deep
mean,
state.
which
He
side do you
says the
believe?
deep state's probably after him. The third,
Yeah,
the
well,
actual party in power.
yeah, I mean, nothing. Who's going to decide this is going to be our intelligence agencies? It's not going to be George Clooney. I hate to give him the bad news.
Yeah, nobody's identifying as the deep state. Nobody's saying, "Hey,
Well,
it's the
uh,
CIA," or it's the big corporate interests. They must be, because
I don't even know.
that's really where it's at, right? If you distill it down to where the power's at, it's back to the money. It's back to the corporate interest.
I don't know anymore. I really
Like
don't.
throw out all the woo woo black magic stuff and
Yeah,
just think about, and forensically, what do they always do when they follow the money trail to like
always.
find the truth? Generally, right? They keep
Yeah.
digging because everything follows that. So it's probably just that. And then, like you're saying, what do we do with our fiat base? I mean, that is scary. There's probably going to be some war fought over that too. Like, are
Oh,
they going to do a digitized federal
they're
Bitcoin or a
trying. But
global?
who's
Yeah,
gonna trust that? Who's gonna trust that? We
right.
have it already. You have Bitcoin. Why don't we just build? But you know why they don't like that is because it trades on
Well, the
blockchain
feds want,
technology.
yeah, the feds
Nobody
want a
knows
piece of
what's
that.
going on with it. Yeah, they want
They
to
want to
cover that shit.
federalize, and then they'll know when you buy a pack of gum,
They'll know
or
when
they
you
can shut you
sneeze.
down. Yeah, they'll
Yeah,
shut you down instantly, right? Just lock your Bitcoin wallet up,
yeah. Having
or it
having
just
been through
disappears.
having been through the cannabis industry and the CBD industry with banking, um, I would have kissed somebody's ass if they had a solid. Right now, Bitcoin hasn't become like a currency. It's a traded commodity. It's like
Yeah, true.
copper. You know what I'm saying? It isn't
Yeah.
widely used as currency. A lot of the casinos online use it. Probably porn sites use it. If you've got a Bitcoin wallet, you can use the Bitcoin wallet in some applications today. But they could shut that down in a heartbeat if they wanted to. But I was saying, having been in the hemp and cannabis industry, manufacturing, you really get a dose of the control that they have when they, all of a sudden a bank comes in. I had this happen to me 5 times, but the last one was the worst. You would think it would have lightened up a little bit. They come in and say, "You're out. We're just not doing this industry anymore." And then you got to go find a bank, and then you find out that everybody doesn't want to touch the industry, which to this day is a mystery to me.
Well, do you think
And
it's just I'm guessing that's because it's federally still not legal,
it's a
right?
Schedule
So they're
One.
not gonna.
Cannabis is a Schedule One, but
Right.
the Farm Bill was supposed to fix everything related to the hemp industry, and it did not. And
Right.
banks still weren't banking industries involved in it. There's a lot that has to do. You want to go back to conspiracies. The pharmaceutical industry had a lot to say in that. In fact, I
That's
know for
true.
a fact
Well, one of
there
the
was a
biggest.
meeting with the credit card companies, and a couple of the big pharma industries were putting pressure on the credit card companies and banking to not allow them to bank companies like us. And so there was a period of time I can remember I'm thrown off PayPal for the rest of my life because I was
Wow.
doing, yeah, I was doing internet transactions for my customers using PayPal. It was the craziest thing, but it's the only way we could generate cash.
Oh, they probably just want their taxes, right? I mean, they tell you
No,
have to report it now.
no.
I don't know if are they still.
Pharma does not like cannabis, and it does not like CBD because it is an alternative for pain. It's an alternative for cancer treatment. It's an alternative for a lot of things, PTSD, depression, all of those things. You know, that's why the day mushrooms they legal. We always go onto the mushroom category, but mushrooms are extremely effective for like the PTSD, depression, all of those types of things. And
And you're saying the pharma companies have. I mean, there's no hurry to release it
no,
from their side
they've got
or
great
legalize
lobbyists,
it,
so they're in
right?
there every day saying not to legalize this shit.
Because they need to make sure it's safe before they release it.
Oh my god, you know the
Like a third of
peptide
the drugs that they release to us as deemingly safe are killing us, right? I mean, that's a whole another 10 more
I know
podcasts,
that's
right?
a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
Oh god, I could go
I
on and on.
have, I have recently, you know, like I always thought they were evil. I was raised, I mean, you know about my mother, but I was
Yeah,
raised in a really strict house where my mother was so religious that she thought like Jesus was going to heal all ailments. So that
so
like,
she was
and
like,
my
no,
mother
no
was like,
drugs,
no drug, right?
no drugs.
Anti-pharmaceutical. Like you didn't even take. There was no aspirin in my house, like
You
Tylenol.
know, at one point, I do believe that the pharmaceutical industry was sincerely honest, trying to do the right thing. I think over time they realized that they had to keep their shareholders. I mean, 144 vaccines for children. I mean, are you kidding me? Think about that. How can I don't even want to we this if we talk about this podcast will never get up on YouTube. So I
Oh, I
just
know,
don't
but
want
I
to.
mean, I like that you let me read that. It was your book, actually, "The Cosmic Serpent," which goes back and talks about how a lot of the basic foundations of modern pharmaceuticals are based on plants, right?
Right.
And the West never gave that credence. We just trust the pharmaceutical companies. They isolate singular compounds to try to make 10 different medications from whatever, like a cannabis
Right.
plant or something, and monetize it. And,
You
and
want
then
to
we
you
make
want to
fun
hear
of the people that have plant medicine.
it's crazy. And that's why functional medicine is there's a gigantic boom in functional medicine because no one trusts their doctors anymore. Um and the
You
other
still have to
thing
give me that magnesium
well, I will. I'll
trick
give
that
you
you
that.
have for blood
Yeah,
pressure.
which
Yeah.
was Pam Pesta turned me on to that. And so, just to give you a little thing on blood pressure medicine, 12 of the top blood pressure medicines in the world are made from synthetic snake venom.
Oh, you had mentioned that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. And the primary, so I was on a medication for high blood pressure. It wouldn't get there. I couldn't get my blood pressure, and they gave me the highest dose of it. So
Wow.
it must be my
Is that what Are you talking about statins? I don't know
no,
much
I'm talking
about
about blood
blood pressure.
pressure medicine.
Okay.
Because of the serpent venom, I think my body rejected it because of the
That's
holiness
because
of
you're rejecting the devil. It
the
was the
devil,
light
right,
in you. Yeah.
right. So,
The serpent.
Pam Pesta, who we should have her on soon. We could get into all this stuff. But with Pam, what she did was she got me a very special magnesium. There's 8 units of it in the single pill, and that dropped my blood pressure. And a peptide. The whole thing with peptides is a battle going on right now. But that dropped my
Okay,
blood
see this I
pressure
don't know,
to
but can you send me your magnesium hookup,
I
please?
will. I will. But the FDA is going after the peptide industry because at one point they were. I may be a little wrong. I don't think I am. I think this is the story with it. The peptides, which are a short chain amino acid, um, those were highly effective. I've been taking them. I broke my ankle. I took them to expedite the healing. I couldn't even believe it. Um, but those peptides, and I'm taking them for some other stuff, highly effective. And here's what happened. They were injectable, that you had to inject them. So the FDA had a problem with that. Oh, although you can
Yeah,
inject hormones and
but
everything
not
else.
up your tuchus, right?
What do you mean up your tuchus?
Like you don't have to inject it in your tushy, right?
No, you put it in your thigh.
Oh, in your thigh. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you're saying, all right. I thought you were getting into some gay stuff, and I was like,
No, I'm saying the peptide. I don't. I want to make
I
sure the injection is not like what do they
no,
call a suppository? A
no. You
suppository.
put it in your thigh. You would
Okay. You.
inject it
It's
into
like
your
an
thigh.
EpiPen or something. Then you're. It's.
Oh, it's like a
Is it an
regular needle, but that
Okay.
was creating an issue with the FDA. So these scientists got on it quickly, and they turned it into supplements. I mean, quick. They did it within 6 months because they
And
were getting.
you're currently taking this, and it's helping you.
Oh, I feel like $1,000,000.
But
I really
pardon
do.
my
I really
ignorance.
do.
But what are the peptides helping, or what is the
Um,
noticeable change that you see?
Well, they
Why
help
are you?
on the component of the blood pressure. They also help if I had a methylation deficiency, and that methylation deficiency created an inability for my body to deal with a couple things. And it's a genetic thing. And probably a lot of people have issues with high blood pressure, heart disease.
Methylation. So what are we talking? What is
When your
that?
body has an inability to, in some instances with methylation, is the calcium levels in your blood.
Mm.
It doesn't go into your bones. The body just it pushes it into your arteries, and
Oh wow.
that's what.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Calcium. Oh, so it creates like a calcium plaque, or
yeah, it creates a calcium plaque,
okay, interesting.
and that's probably what a vast majority of heart disease revolves around.
Hmm.
It's not, there is probably a genetic component to it, but it's a deficiency in your body's ability to methylate. Always when they say
And
uh,
that process
it's
is called
genetic,
methylation.
yeah, and always
Is
when they
that the
say some.
process for the body to properly distribute calcium, or what is the
And
process of methylation?
to process it.
Okay.
There's hormones, and I believe there are amino acids or proteins that if you have high blood pressure, your body doesn't properly address uh, these hormonal things and these um, components inside the blood, so it'll maintain your high blood pressure. So you have to literally go in and get methylated supplements, and those methylated supplements will start to bring your blood pressure down, will start to bring you into methylation, so that your body has the process of methylation, and it
And
starts
this
to.
probably costs more than cocaine, right?
Actually, it doesn't. It's not expensive.
Okay. Well, that's
Yeah,
good. Okay,
no,
so
it's
maybe
not.
it's
It's really
yeah.
not. I mean, that's why they don't. You know, that's why they don't want it out there. It's
Mm.
it's it's
But
probably
this
a
is a
quick.
way to naturally help regulate your blood pressure as opposed to being on like a statin or something.
Well, statins, we don't even want to talk about those today. I
Okay.
can't go there. I had s
I
I can't do it.
see. I don't know a lot about this. I know you and I were talking off air.
Well, with
I have
statins
historically
are
had low
supposed to.
blood pressure, but yeah.
Here we go. Statins are supposed to lower cholesterol, okay?
Okay.
But what they don't tell you is, okay, that's great. Your blood, and I'm not even sure that they do a good job at lowering your cholesterol levels, because cholesterol is good. Cholesterol is what your brain's made of. 25% of your brain's made from cholesterol. Neuro pathways in the brain are all made from cholesterol.
Hmm.
Cholesterol prevents cancer. So all this shit about cholesterol being bad is complete shit.
Well,
Um,
there's good cholesterol and bad, right? I mean, they have categorized it.
yeah, there's the big bouncy beach ball cholesterol, and then there's the golf ball cholesterol. You don't want the golf ball cholesterol. But the point that I'm saying is that when you're on statins for extended periods of time, it can affect your brain power and function. And if you don't have the proper fat, that's why most vegans end up with Alzheimer's, because they don't have those animal fats. Whether we like it or not, we're carnivores. That's just the way it goes.
That's
But
scary, though. Like that you
What
could
do
literally
you
get.
mean it's scary? Lions have no problems with it, and lions, tigers, and bears,
Yeah.
they're pretty healthy.
No, I'm
Right?
saying it's scary that if you don't eat meat, you can get
Oh,
Alzheimer's.
you
That's scary. It's like,
yeah.
yeah. So
It's
Alzheimer's
that it's
happens to be
because
one of my biggest fears, and they
oh
say
god.
aluminum and this and
I'm
that. And like I've worked with people in that population, and it's just, and
I know.
I've never even had a loved one who had it. Like that must be just heart wrenching, but it ain't pretty. You know?
Well, you know, we're gonna put the we've got a couple of clips we'll be putting into the podcast. And in the beginning, that Joe Biden in that church, when you see him in that church and there's a look of distress, like he's been abandoned, and he's sitting there, and you can tell there's something wrong. That at that point, I said, "This is not. This is no longer politics." I don't like Joe Biden. There's lots of reasons not to like.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, he's an old man. He should have dignity, and
I know it's sad, and you would think his wife, like, if you can't
what
leave
about his
that
kids?
trust to
Why
your
aren't they going to him saying,
right,
"Hey,
like,
what are we
when you
doing
hope
this
your
for?"
loved ones would pull you aside and say, "Hey, Dad, I want this to happen off air," like, not while you're running the world and
Yeah,
being filmed every
well, I
fucking
think we
minute of
can.
your day.
I think it's pretty obvious he's not running the world. He hasn't run the world since he's been in office. We've basically elected an Alzheimer's patient,
Maybe
which is
Jill.
sad.
That's I was saying that to my wife the other night. Maybe Jill's actually pulling the strings. Imagine, and
Well,
like
she's doing
nobody knows.
something. She's in
Yeah,
every cabinet meeting with him, along with Hunter now, which, if you can believe that, which,
that's crazy.
yeah, I mean, he's a convicted felon
Like,
now.
how
So
did Hunter get security? You would think you'd need like a security
that's what I was
clearance,
going to
wouldn't you?
say. You can't
Yeah.
get. That's the interesting thing with Trump with this conviction. He hasn't been convicted yet of that. Which one? I can't even remember which one. Which one was he just convicted of with the?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't watch any of it.
Well, he the whole thing on the bookkeeping, that's what it was. His bookkeeping, how he put the payments to the porn star Stormy Daniels, how those were recorded. It's all bullshit. I mean, $175,000. It was his money.
She's
It's
now a
just,
psychic medium. Did you see that?
is she really?
She's got, yeah, she's got
I've been thinking
superpowers.
about doing that. I've been thinking about
Yeah,
becoming a
she
psychic
got.
medium.
I don't know. Maybe there was something in that in Trump's holy seed or something, and it somehow went to her brain. And I'm sorry. Please don't
Oh my god.
cancel me.
Yeah, he had special powers in his seed, and she's turned
We
into a
don't
guy
necessarily agree with everything we say on the show.
clairvoyant.
Just let's let
She's
that
a
be known.
she's a genius clairvoyant now that she can
Yeah.
tell. She's
Yeah.
making millions at the stock market or something, so good for her. But yeah, so
Truth is stranger than fiction, my friend.
oh my god, this has been we really, well, you know what it is? It's just thank God for podcasts, right?
Yeah, true.
Because
Thank God we
no,
live in a country that we can say what we want without
so far they haven't
worrying,
come to your house or
Yeah,
mine.
yeah.
But the other thing is just thank God for the podcast, because if we didn't have them, we wouldn't really know what was going on. And if we didn't have objective commentary, which I think a lot of cases you do get objective commentary,
It was
we'd be
tough in the '80s, wasn't it, man? Because I would listen to like radio. Like for me, again, I said my mother was really strict religiously, so the TV was kind of evil.
yep.
Um, and news, like if you were reading printed material, like maybe you could get to the New York Times, but it's still, you know, information distribution was just a lot harder back at, you remember, you'd listen to AM radio
You didn't
or
have
you'd hear a
anything.
little
Yeah,
teeny clip on the news, right?
you didn't hear, and
Little snippets.
the news was a half hour, right? It was a half hour. You'd listen
And
to
you
it.
go to the library and the information is 6 months old.
Yeah, okay, it's pretty primitive when you think about it, right?
Yeah. Like we're
And we
living in an awesome
relied.
time.
Think of
Yeah.
how they were fucking us every day back then. In reality,
Yeah. Well, in politics, right? They could probably get a lot more done before people were questioning.
realized that they
Yeah.
had been date raped basically. And that's
Yeah.
the whole thing. I think it's been, the government. I mean, the whole thing started after World War II. They took advantage of that whole Hitler fear, and they didn't want to have Hitler rise again, and on and on. And so that's the dawn of the intelligence agencies, the NSA, the CIA, the FBI. It's it's pretty frightening. I think it's
And
frightening.
history repeats itself too, because like even the Biden story is nothing new. It's like the emperor wears no clothes, right? The
Yeah,
emperor, the king starts mentally deteriorating and they hide him away somewhere. And
it's a
meanwhile, like
movie.
the son or the right, the
Re-
right hand man of the king is actually running things, or like
Braveheart. Remember
Shakespeare. I mean, it's
Braveheart,
yeah,
the king with leprosy, or the lord with leprosy, who was
yeah,
you know violating everybody. And oh god, it's just it's Game of Thrones. That's where we're at.
yeah,
Game of
yeah.
Thrones. You got Jill Biden. She's that queen that was banging her brother, and then Joe thinks he's married to who knows what's going on with these people. But we do know
But
they're
why wouldn't she
degenerates.
say to her husband, like, are they power hungry to the point where they have no soul, right? They
How
just
about
go,
they have so much criminal shit out there that
oh, that they
they
can't go
can't
away
allow that
quietly.
power to go away, because it creates all the uncertainty about who they are and what their future is.
Maybe I think our country's so forgiving that they could literally just she could be like Joe needs medical care, and she could live quietly in the countryside, and they'd be fine for the rest of their life. They're not gonna fucking prosecute Biden at this point.
No, I
The
don't
poor
think they
guy doesn't
will.
know
But
he's
but
coming or going. So
it's
they're
not about Biden, it's his entire family. They've all taken
and
a knee.
Hunter's too dumb to. I mean, he'll just sink his own ship before he has a chance to be, for the truth to come out at
Yeah.
what a scumbag he is,
I
or
think the
how
biggest I think the biggest thing going back to Biden, though, don't you, is that the surprise of the media? Oh my god, what's wrong with
yeah,
Joe
that was
Biden?
just that's funny. But I mean, I've been looking forward to this debate. I've been saying it for months. Like, I wonder if Biden could have a 15-minute conversation with Trump, like, or just the American public. Like, could he do it unscripted,
The
like
sad part
full
about that is,
contact?
no,
He doesn't trail off.
he can't do it. I mean, he's been trying since
Right. And
right.
I don't think he has been for the entire, his entire presidency, right? He
Well, no,
hasn't
it's
been
been
real
9
with it.
years. That's why they kept him locked
Yeah.
up. They had the COVID. When you really think about it, now that we're talking about it out loud, you wonder about the COVID thing. I think they would do anything to maintain power. So who knows? I mean, the whole COVID thing may have been. You just have to wonder: is it important enough to put the entire country in the cesspool, in a dumpster fire, while you maintain your power? And I think there may be some reality to that. I think that may be okay with the ruling class. They don't have to deal with it. Rich people don't deal with inflation. They don't deal with gas at $5. I grocery shop. I'm by myself, so I grocery shop. I go in and watch people shopping. I really pay attention to what's going on. And you see people making like trying to find the cheapest this, that, and you can see that going on in grocery markets today. And that wasn't I don't recall seeing that for some time. Remember Jimmy Carter? That was a disaster, his economy. But I haven't seen, there's some real shit going on.
But I
Gas.
mean, that's again, we're back just like with Biden. That's the real story of history, right? The ruling, and when my kids would be like, "Oh, well, socialism isn't that bad" or whatever, and you're like, you understand there's still a ruling class. Like, there's going to be this segment of people. Like,
That
there's
are
a
in control.
hierarchy in socialism, and they're going to live fucking better than you. They're going to get the good steaks, and you might be lucky to get any.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I
it
do.
doesn't fucking matter. Communism,
Yeah.
democracy, capitalism, whatever you want to
It's
say.
the
It's like,
Hunger Games. It's the Hunger Games,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It's still like every man for himself, and the power drunk are gonna do what they need to do to stay in power. Like, that
Yeah.
story of humanity has not changed.
No, it has not. No,
And
history
this is
repeats
why God
itself.
needs to destroy the world. And that's why I wear my fun hat today.
Well, I love it. And you know what? If there's ever a time
No,
for
God needs to
Jesus,
bless us with.
no, if there's
Oh,
ever a
for
time
Jesus,
for
yeah.
Jesus to come,
That
we
was George Carlin. Do you remember he said
no, no.
a small 5 minute press conference with Jesus in Times Square would clear shit up if he just showed up and was like, "Hey guys, just relax and chill. I'll be back in like 10 years."
Oh, that would
He'd
be
clear a lot of shit up.
yeah, he would clear a lot of shit up, but I don't know that that's gonna happen because I think
Yeah,
the
I don't think
aliens are
so
gonna get
either.
here first. I really do.
The
So
aliens, and yeah, I mean that's another show. The
yeah, that
aliens are
is another
coming too.
show.
Yeah.
Yep. But it's so in conclusion to all of the shit we've talked about today, which is it really is, we are a goddamn dumpster fire. Um, we really are. You keep waiting for it to get better, and it
Well,
just
let's leave it on a positive note. We're humanity, and we can get through it.
well, listen, we've been through 2 world wars, we've been through
The
a
Great
bunch of
Depression.
conflicts, we've been through a Great
You know,
Depression, we've been through
you and I have
slavery.
lived the bulk of our lives, uh, in a country that has been good to us. We have to say
Yeah,
that,
I
right?
agree, and
Yeah,
I do have faith in people, I really do.
yeah.
I don't know what has happened with certain segments of people that they get this upset over a human being, that being Donald Trump. I mean, I have never seen anything like it. I wasn't a fan of Barack Obama's. I wasn't a fan of the Bushes, but I never was like shrill screaming and saying nonsense about the minute the
Well,
Hitler
you wonder
compare.
how far back it runs. The first time I remember people really hating, but so I was born in '71, but I
Mm,
remember like people were passionate about Reagan, and everybody loves Reagan now. But I think I said this to you the other night. They were burning like effigies of him. You
I
remember in the
remember
Middle East, like
overseas they were,
stomping
yeah.
on it, and yeah, I mean, a lot of people in music videos were kind of making fun of Reagan, and
You know
he
what's
got a lot
so
of shit.
interesting too is the presidents who said start world wars didn't. It was the people that accused them of starting world wars that started
Yeah,
wars.
yeah, that's true.
And that's
Yeah.
pretty predominantly obvious right now in our political system that the ones that accuse you of doing something are the ones that are doing it.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
true. Yeah.
This
It's
doesn't
true.
sound
And the
good
reason
for
they can
us.
dream up this shit is because they're doing it. So I mean, I've seen people do that. I've seen people, go in and viscerate someone and say they're doing this, that, and the other thing. And it's not that person that's doing it. It's the actual person accusing them of doing it. And I think that's where our politics is today. Carl Jung, who I'm a fan of, and I just watched, oh God, I can't think of the guy's name. He's a comedian, but he's a Carl Jung guy. Uh, there's a thing called the Red Book that I didn't know got published. It got published 3 years ago. It's like Carl Jung's final work. It was 50 years worth of uh, theory, and he didn't want it published until he was dead for 50 years because he was afraid that people would look at it and say contradicts your core beliefs. Pretty interesting. But Jimmy Dore, Jimmy Dore? He's a
Okay. Yeah.
comedian and
Yeah.
he's a political guy. Anyway, Jimmy Dore, which it was really interesting listening to him in the podcast, and he said these people have this shrill attitude toward Trump are really looking at a reflection of themselves. So Trump is comfortable with who he is, obviously, as a human being. But there's people who look at him, Rob Reiner being one of them, who just goes out of his
Mm.
fucking gourd, who sees something in Trump that reminds him of himself, maybe a flaw or something. And they say that's where the whole this whole Trump insanity comes from is
Like De Niro seems to have a special place in his heart for Trump.
well, you know what, De
Take it from.
Niro, well,
It's
he's been
funny.
to the Epstein Island like 32 times.
And it's
I think
surprising how like ineloquent he is. Like he's such a great actor, but like when he's trying to talk politics, he sounds like
well, he's
pretty
got a
dumb,
great
I guess.
memory. He's got a great memory,
Yeah.
but his
Was he on
intellect's
the
good.
island? Was he on the list?
Oh yeah, he
Was
was
he on
there
that?
32
Oh
times
wow.
or something. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing that they're saying that the war is between all this exposure, people being exposed for all this shit.
They're
And
probably all on the list. Probably Biden and Trump was
well,
on there.
you
Everybody
know what
was
they
on
said
there.
about
Anybody who was
Biden?
anybody.
Uh, Joe Biden's brother had an island near the Epstein Island. Did you know that? There's this whole thing
Wow.
about
Yeah,
that.
makes
Jim
sense. But
Biden
yeah,
has
that's
one. Yeah. I don't know. It's the craziest shit ever.
yeah.
But
I don't know. I was listening to Kevin Spacey's recent interview,
oh,
uh,
I caught a
and
little
he
bit of
came
that.
out and they were it was pretty good. But at one point they were talking about Epstein's Island, and he said, he was hanging with the Clintons, partying with the Clintons, and he said, "Oh, we did these kind of benefit food bank benefit things in Africa or something like that." And I turn around and I'm on the plane, and I'm on the Clintons plane, and Epstein's on the plane. Now I'm not real good friends with him, but I see him on the, and he's like, and he pretends that like, oh, I didn't know I was getting on that plane, you know, like,
Oh,
oh, I'm just
really?
hanging out with the Clintons, and here we are in Epstein's plane, and I realize, years later, he said,
Do you
but
think that
yeah,
was
so he
true?
was. No, I think he knew what was going on, and
Yeah, me too. I think they're all full of shit. They're all
I
covering
think
their
it
own
was
ass.
obvious on the planes. I think they probably had cocktail waitresses that were all,
Well,
probably
there was the whole thing
underage.
with the back of the plane, getting back at that was a CIA plane he had. Well, how did he get that? That was I forget what the model plane that was, but it's like the
The
C-130.
Lolita Express, you're saying?
Yeah, the whole back of it opened up. And there were
Wow.
rumors that they were tossing bodies out the back of that plane, and then they closed it back
Ugh.
up over the ocean or wherever they were, so there were no witnesses or whatever. Um, you can't discount anything today
So who do we
because
hold culpable then? Like, do we bring this back to the divine? Like, do we need to have another episode on why God would allow reality to be as fucked up as it is? Or
oh god, I don't know. That'd be a big we'd have to get a couple of other people involved in that
yeah, we'd have to get
podcast.
some theologians,
Yeah,
somebody who. I mean, maybe we can get God on the line.
I've tried. I've tried. It's just he's
You
extremely busy. He's extremely busy.
You know
But
how Tom Waits has that song, God's away on business, business.
no, I don't know.
It's a good song. I'll send it
Is
to
that right? Well, I
you.
like
Yeah.
Wade, so. But anyway, with that said, I think we're good. I think we've covered what we needed to today. Um,
We made him laugh. We made him cry.
we did
Hopefully, we
everything.
made you think. Yeah,
We sprinkled a little bit of everything. We didn't
I
get too
liked it.
involved in medicine because that
I
gets you
liked it.
through.
Yeah.
I can't think of how many YouTube videos we've had to take down. I think 3 or 4 because of the whole. And
Well,
then
stay
we were
healthy
able to
and
put
don't
one
get taken down.
back up because everything that we talked about was true, but they still get very, very touchy about the
This is
whole.
what I mean. Who gets to arbitrate what is true? This is a
I
whole
just
nother
think
podcast. Maybe we
I
should do
think you
one on
gotta
that.
let it fly. I think you
The
gotta let it
truth.
fly. I think there's more truth inside the podcasting community than there is in the news. I always am, like, so amazed at the whole
And we
what
don't even have, I guess the nice thing about this is, you and I don't even have corporate sponsors to be beholden to. Maybe someday we will. And
I
then suddenly, how do you deal with that?
yeah,
I
be
don't want to
like
lose
Dana
my
White.
sponsor.
You ever see
Yeah.
Dana White
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and
You
Peloton,
think he's
the stationary bikes?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He was on a podcast and they were saying how the sponsors didn't like the Bobby Kennedy interview. They didn't like it, and the sponsor called up and said they were going to pull their advertising. And then he got the podcaster to tell him who it was. It was Peloton bikes,
Oh
and
jeez.
right
That's
there
probably
he
a big
called it.
account too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he called in his guy and said, "Are those Peloton bikes we have out there in the workout area?" And he goes, "Yeah." He says, "Take them out right now and throw them all in the trash. Get people together and throw them." He took out like 10,
Oh my
10 of those
god.
bikes and threw them in the garbage.
Did he that's funny.
Yeah,
But
I
he's like they call that fuck you rich, right? You're like at a point where you can
I
just
know, but boy, there are
like
people
Rogan is like that.
that have
Yeah.
fuck you money that don't necessarily do that. He's pretty. I really
I know.
respect
Yeah,
him.
that's true. Yeah,
I
I like him.
respect
I got
him a
to
lot.
run and pee, brother. But that was a good
We're
one.
done. We're done. We will
Okay.
we'll get this up and next week we've got another one coming. So we'll see you
I'm
next
looking
week.
forward to it. It was a good,
Until
good.
then, everybody
Yeah.
just try and fucking survive. That's all I can say.
Amen.